a lot of neighborhood councils, and the last that I heard from the city attorney is that there was not a statement at whether or not it actually was legal, and I think it's something that the city needs to keep their hands off of until it's decided, because the way it was set up, it was impossible for us to touch that money.
Right. I am aware of that issue. Frankly, that issue I think came up after, it came up to our awareness, it came up after the city council had voted on the policy to move the rollover funds to the unappropriated balance. So the money was sitting there in the unappropriated balance, and then there were going to be 3 sweeps of that money into the reserve. Okay? So the first sweep happened. The second sweep was supposed to happen on Tuesday. But because we became aware of that issue, and because we're still considering the claims that neighborhood councils have already submitted for funds that have been encumbered in some way, I moved this week to have the rollover extended so that that money wouldn't be swept until we have more time to figure that out. And the department is working on that. Well, I know. But, but listen, give them a little bit of a break, because when you think about what we've asked them to do at a time when they're extremely shorthanded already, are going to be more so. The general manager is going to be leaving. They're in a place now where it's really tough to try to administer anything, but we're trying to, with a gun to our head, essentially, we're trying to get that done and figure that policy out as quickly as we can. And there's 90 neighborhood councils. Everyone is going to have unique circumstances, and we're trying our best to do that. I'll tell you the other thing that I want to do, though, is I do want to explore with the city attorney's office the legal issues associated with that. And I don't want to, get too far ahead of myself on that. But for now, let's just say that that issue is not resolved yet in my mind. And if it turns out that there are legal limitations on what we are able to do, and we have or will be doing something that's outside of the scope of what we're permitted to do, then we're going to have a remedy for that, and I'll be explaining.
Mr. Krekorian, I'm concerned with using pronouns. You've used the pronoun we a whole series of times.
Thank you, because that's a bad habit that I have. I got to break that
so
habit.
We'll share and sympathize with you over it. You've already started answering the question I want to ask at this point, and that is, we're very anxious to both be volunteers, to be helpful to the solution, and also to know how we can best both vet and accomplish these ends. Can you assure us that this will be agendized to the E&N committee, and that there will be adequate time and opportunity for us to come to that committee with our suggestions so that we can maintain the independence that we need? There's 3 words that start with ADV. We are by charter advisors. We have now become advocates, and we're recognized advocates. The budget advocates is the best example of that. And we do not want to become the 3rd ADV. That would be adversaries. We are not adversaries. But we have some real positive things to offer the city. And as one of the people who makes those decisions, we need to work with you and your colleagues at the Horseshoe, with the mayor and his office, to get these things done. Can you help advise us so that we can do the best task of getting the job done?
Yeah, well, I hope that all of you who've been to my committee have already seen what I hope is a positive change. We had, a tremendous hearing in City Hall chambers, and I scheduled it in City Hall chambers just to accommodate what I knew would be a large number of people coming, and it was great, and we went on for hours and hours, and I think all of the work that we do at City Council needs to have a great deal more transparency and more opportunity for public input. And I've tried to take steps in that direction, like we even are now, my staff, and I want to recognize Damian Carroll from my staff, my district director, who's here with us, with his daughter, again, spending our weekends with his daughter here, serving the public. We've done things like live blogging from committee meetings, so that even if you can't come, you can follow the committee. That's never been done before by any council member in any committee hearing, as far as I know. And so we're trying to do things like that to make this as transparent, as inclusive, as welcoming a process as we can. And that should be done in everything that we do, but especially this, especially my committee, which is probably the single, the core purpose of it is community empowerment. And so if we're not doing it in that committee, then we've got a real problem.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm a member of the Department of Aging, and the state cut the Department of Aging $2 million this year, and not accounting what the city's doing. And the city tried to merge Rec and Parks into the Department of Aging, which there's no connection at all. I went to the hearing. But the thing is, I went to a meeting at the Department of Aging, and one of the staff said to me, "You belong to the neighborhood council. Go to them and please tell them to give us the money that they're holding." And he quoted a large sum of money that the neighborhood council is supposed to be holding, and so we can help out the Department of Aging. And I said to him, "Wait a minute, I will not do that. You don't know what's going on with the neighborhood councils."
Good for you, because that's the sort of thing you'll hear. You'll hear people who don't believe in neighborhood councils say, they've got some money, let's go grab that money and put it into some other very worthy cause. And, look, one of the challenges that we have in this is that every time we have a council meeting and we're talking about a specific cut in a specific area, we'll get a long line of people, and they'll come up and they'll talk about how important libraries are, or how important the arts are, or how important, each day it's a different thing.
Yeah.
How important the Department of Aging is, how important the Department of disability is, and so. And they'll come before us, and you know what? I agree with every single one of them every single time, because those are all very important services.
Yeah, yeah.
And the issue is not, do I think this is important or not? The issue is, how do we weigh all of these really important, valuable services that serve constituents who need them and depend upon them? How do we prioritize those and determine which is going to suffer the most harm? Because all are going to suffer some.
Yeah.
And so, that's been the really frustrating and difficult part of my job. And what I keep focusing on, and every time the CAO comes before, the Chief Administrative Officer comes before us, or whenever general managers of departments come before us, what I try to focus on is saying, have you identified what the core mission of your department is? Have you identified what is the essential service? And even with Nunn, we did this too. And Sean, you've touched upon some of that. What is the core service that you provide to your constituents? And what are the things that aren't core, that you do that are good, but maybe not essential to the continuing functioning of our city? And we have to prioritize on what those initial core services are in every area. Make sure that gets funded, get through this difficult time, and when revenues start to recover and when the economy starts to recover, then we can rebuild based on that. But it can't be, coming to somebody in my position and saying, well, do you want libraries or do you want parks? I want libraries and parks.
Yes.
But both of them may have to get by with less for the time being. Bless you.
Or perhaps local communities could have some say in whether we put more into libraries or parks, which is in fact the official position of the harbor area neighborhood council group.
Well, and if I may, that's the reason BudgetLA is so important and what you're doing there, because it helps to get the collective.
So I want to follow up on this conversation you've been having with Sean, because it's become a real problem. Okay, say we vote $2,500 to clean San Pedro, and somehow the paperwork hasn't gone through, and now they want to take that money away, and all of a sudden people are talking lawsuits and so on. It would be useful for the city council, the city attorney, somebody to clarify at what point in the process it becomes a city obligation, so that we can tell Clean San Pedro or Shakespeare by the Sea, yeah, the money is yours, you'll eventually get paid, go ahead and do the service. Because right now we don't know.